Recording in progress.
Good morning, dear Dharma friends. It's happening again. I think maybe I'm going to watch Groundhog Day again. provides a model for what we're doing. In case anybody's new, I'm Robert Beatty, or so I'm told and have been conditioned. I'm unable to find myself, but that's the repetitive pattern. It's Robert Beatty. And this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, which has really been alive in a way since 1979 here in Portland. In 2004, we bought the beautiful building we're now in, and by this afternoon at 1 o'clock or so, the carpet will be completed in the living room. It's looking very beautiful. So I have a poem for us this morning. It's one I remember, but I haven't read it much over the years. William Stafford, a giant of a gentle man who used to live here in Portland. Any Morning by Bill Stafford. Just lying on the couch and being happy. Only humming a little, the quiet sound in the head. Trouble is busy elsewhere at this moment. It has so much to do in the world. People who might judge are mostly asleep. They can't monitor you all the time, and sometimes they forget. When dawn flows over the hedge, you can get up and act busy. Like corners, little corners like this, pieces of heaven left lying around, can be picked up and saved. People won't even see that you have them. They are so light and easy to hide. Later in the day, you can act like the others. You can shake your head. You can frown. Any morning. Just lying on the couch and being happy. Only humming a little, the quiet sound in the head. Trouble is busy elsewhere at the moment. It has so much to do in the world. People who might judge are mostly asleep. They can't monitor you all the time, and sometimes they forget. When dawn flows over the hedge, you can get up and act busy. Little corners like this, pieces of heaven left lying around, can be picked up and saved. People won't even see that you have them. They are so light and easy to hide. Later in the day, you can act like the others. You can shake your head. You can frown. So you may be sitting on the couch or a meditation seat. Wherever you are. What if we just allowed a little while of happiness this morning? Not ecstatic bliss. Just, oh, right, this is the way it is right now. we sit comfortably upright. And we can remind ourselves of our extraordinary good fortune and plant a few seeds of intentional gratitude. I'm grateful that my home is warm this morning. The broadcast is working. Respiration is working fine, breathing. The fact that I haven't received any bad news about my family and my children means there isn't a crisis right now. Last time I looked, last evening when I came home, I had my own private transportation. I'm comforted by being on Medicare and having really fine health care when I need it. And it goes on and on. We can list so many things to be grateful for. And let's not forget, foundationally, imagine that we are here 2,600 years after the Buddha, and these elegant teachings are still extant. There's a living tradition of this path of awakening. And let us come to sit here to be attentive to in-breathing and out-breathing. Each and every breath manifests the great paradigm of beginning and ending. Each in-breath exists now. There are lots of other sensations in the body, of course. Pressure against the chair. The countless places where clothing touches the body. Of course, there may well be thoughts. There could be an attitude of wanting, craving, desiring, lusting, or its opposite, wanting not, disliking something. There could be restlessness and agitation, worry, the seemingly endless storytelling of the mind. There could be sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness, lack of interest. There could be doubt. It's hard to stay with doubt. It behooves us to be aware also of mood. What is the mood this morning? If we don't know it, we are it. So let us awaken to mood. One image we might use for our practice is that we are scientists, we are naturalists, We've somehow or another landed on a planet in a body, and we're very curious. What's it like to be in one of these? How is it? What is it we can observe? And like any true explorer or scientist, we want to affect the experiment as little as possible. We'd like this family of lemurs that we're studying to not know we're there, so we can see how it is they interact. In the Sutra on Mindfulness, Satipatthana Sutra, the Buddha suggested find a quiet place, sit upright, abandoning covetousness and grief concerning the world, abandoning the past and future, being here. Notice the arising and passing of breathing. Notice the life elsewhere in the body. Notice the posture of the body. Throughout the entirety of daily life, notice the movement, the activities. So we are aware, now I'm standing, now I'm walking, now I'm sitting, now I'm eating, now I'm bathing, now I'm talking on the phone. Or now there is talking on the phone. Right now there is sitting here in this comfortable, safe place. Thoughts arise, do their dance, and disappear. Our various personal neurotic patterns, our personality patterns arise and do their dance and disappear. The wandering mind is remarkably seductive. It tells stories, and there's a believing in those stories. With mindfulness, the stories become transparent. Oh, it's a story. So we come home to breathing in and breathing out. Awakening from the various trances requires no tensing of the body. Doesn't require the forehead to get tense or the gut to get tense. In fact, the awakening happens really all by itself. We get to just watch the show. Is there some tension? Because this moment is not what it's believed that this moment should be different in some way. Perhaps like that ecstatic concentration that was here yesterday, or maybe that it shouldn't have this tinge of depression or anxiety. I should be better. I should be different. Perhaps embracing the teachings of Ajahn Chah, this moment is exactly like this. Time and again, awakening. This moment is exactly like this. Now, resting back into the present moment. Oh. Resting back into the present moment, which is like this. Perhaps there's a strong mood present. Sometimes there's difficult to know because we think they're true. We think they're who we are. But moment by moment, we are set free. We are freedom itself. letting this very breath right now be enough.
So come away with me.
Resting in the present moment. It's so simple. There are complicated, fancy techniques, visualizations, imaginations. Waking up is simply waking up. It's not about psychic powers or somehow becoming super duper. It's just being an ordinary person, complete with neurotic patterns. Complete with a personality. And this is William Stafford's poem again. Just lying on the couch and being happy. Only humming a little. The quiet sound in the head. Trouble is busy elsewhere at the moment. It has so much to do in the world. People who might judge are mostly asleep. They can't monitor you all the time. And sometimes they forget. When dawn flows over the hedge, you can get up and act busy. Little corners like this, pieces of heaven left lying around, can be picked up and saved. People won't even see that you have them. They are so light and so easy to hide. Later in the day, you can act like the others. You can shake your head, and you can frown. May all beings everywhere, may all those who take birth live a lifetime and pass away. May all my relations of the air, the earth, and the water may those who are dying today and those who are being born today those who live in or under tyranny or who are scrabbling for a meal today, and those who live in the pinnacles of riches. May we all remember our true great nature. May we all become compassionate and wise, generous, patient. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere know happiness, the causes of happiness, and the path leading to happiness. Thank you for coming this morning, my friends. It's very comforting. Thank you for being here, Mr. Dalton. Riding shotgun.
Always my pleasure.
I do have a couple of announcement-y things. There is this. Oop. Here we are. You may have received this in your email. I hope you did. Go away, I don't want this here. This is the retreat that Jim and I will be conducting. Where is it here? Where's the dates? Oh, here it is. January 7 to 12, 2022. A virtual retreat where you stay at home and join us online for 5 days. And we have, the pace is going to be open, meaning you don't have to sit in front of your computer all day. And however, the emphasis will be on staying mindful all day. Then there is this, if I can find it. Well, maybe the dates aren't so critical. Yeah, it's just yesterday, Hollyhock invited me to teach a second retreat. So at the end of May into June next year, I'll be offering a retreat there. And there was something else. Is this the first Sunday? Candle is teaching this Sunday. I lose track of the dates of things. But there was something else.
Not the first Sunday.
Not?
No.
There was, oh, yeah. I wonder, let me see if I can pull this up easily. Not there, interestingly. Is it here? He's do. Here it is. The carpet is in. Oh, that's weird. It gets shrunk. That's a nice picture of a cord. Here's the living room at PIMC. They'll be finished today. And we will be, I should put this out there right now, which is by the middle of December, we are going to need help, a lot of help, actually, because we will be re-inhabiting the center, and there will be a lot to do in terms of decorating. And so, particularly if you're in Portland, keep that in mind. We will need your help. And in that regard, we certainly need the help of anyone who can help financially in terms of supporting the project. We are, the dust is settling, and we're probably, it's hard to know actually, but we're probably $50,000 short of the extra expenses. The city required a $40,000 fire alarm system. We're going to be very sophisticated around fire alarms. That came up at the last minute. That just reminded me of something. Oh yes, I got an email yesterday from the fire alarm people. I must respond. So that's what I have to say. Sure is wonderful to sit together and be mindful. And I will be with you through next Tuesday morning. And then on from Wednesday through the following Tuesday, I will be in Florida gathering up my mother-in-law from a memory care place there and bringing her to a memory care place here. Nightmares actually exist in those places. I mean, they're a nightmare just by their nature in a way, but Jennifer went back to visit her mother in the very expensive place that she is in Fort Lauderdale and discovered that her laundry had not been done in months. Jennifer, created 27 photographs of her mother's life and made them really nice little frames and had a place, purchased a table for them all to go on. And when she went to visit, they had never been unpacked. So it behooves us to pay attention to our elders who are in such places, because they can be pretty difficult. So that's my happy news. Anything happening with you folks that you would like to share? Oh, one last thing. The retreat, the stay-at-home retreat, is limited to 25 people. There are 9 registrations already since yesterday. If you want to participate, I would say sign up now.
Hi, Robert. It's Joy.
It's Joy. Hello, Joy.
Hey, Robert. Everything's good except I've been working and working all fall, planning this project I'm working on, and it's just not working out the way I wanted. And it seems as though there's always this gap between what we plan and what actually happens in reality.
Right.
So is it more useful to change how we think about it or to actually do something different?
What about both?
Yeah. And what about disappointment? Like, darn, this wasn't my plan.
You know, in a way, the very first thing the Buddha taught, there he was. He had his awakening, and then he found his friends he'd been practicing with. And, and the first thing he said to them was, life's pretty disappointing, isn't it? Dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. And another kind of humorous way of putting the teachings is, how do you handle disappointment? Learning how to handle disappointment is one of the keys to freedom and happiness, because life is pretty darn disappointing. So here you have a circumstance, and you may need to change your plan. Getting feedback from the world is like, oh, this isn't working. And then you may be able to do it, whatever it is, a different way. But also, of great importance is the capacity to say, oh, it's like this. Who would have thunk it? I thought I had figured out all the angles and so on, and it turned out it was completely off base.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how do I handle disappointment? But the teachings don't mean we don't do our very best to change course and make things work, of course. But being willing to recognize that things are really out of control.
Mm-hmm. True.
And there are little disappointments and monsters. Right?
True. But I spent all fall obsessing over this plan, which was kind of a sort of a waste of time, like all that mental energy. And then something completely unexpected happened. So that's always the way I find, like, the thing you don't obsess over comes out of the blue.
Or maybe it comes out of the blue, and then the thing you obsessed about also comes out of the blue.
Well, that's pretty scary. It's like obsession or rumination doesn't fix anything, but it's hard to avoid.
That's a bell ringer, that observation. Right, it doesn't fix it. Right. Worrying about things to a degree can help us check out all the details and so on, but learning how to stop that tendency in the mind. Learning how to simply drop out of the worrying and be sitting on the couch humming a little song is really important. Because the worrying doesn't lead to better outcomes.
True. No, I love the poem. I thought the poem was incredible.
Now, I'm being cavalier about this. I'm not knowing what it is you're dealing with. I would also like to say, there's a lot of pain in things when they don't work out like we'd like. And the only sensible attitude toward ourselves and others in those circumstances is compassion.
I did feel a tiny moment of compassion the other day, and it made me realize how often I expect the world to be very critical and condemning.
Huh.
And often it isn't that way. And there are these like little breaths of compassion that, blow our way.
So you have an expectation that the world is going to be critical and unsupportive.
Harsh criticism. Yeah.
So there we have childhood marching through. And how wonderful to know that, and then to see the many times when that's not true.
Yes. Often the response is far more supportive or kind than I ever imagined it would be.
Right. I was just reminded of, it's 2 years now since I had my little stroke and then had the brain surgery. 2 years already. But
Wow.
I was pretty out of it there for a while. And PIMC community brought food. There were more cards than I could read, even almost. And I was very vulnerable at the time. I mean, I had a 3-inch hole cut in my skull, among other things. But I would get a card, and I would find myself on the couch just sobbing that because all this outpouring of love was coming right up against a very deep conditioning that, well, I'm not really loved. Not really. If they only knew, blah, 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 all that stuff. And that stuff out of early childhood and maybe just natural human stuff. And it was so, there was so much healing that happened through seeing and I sometimes joke about it, but it's not really a joking thing, which is it became almost impossible to hold on to that childhood belief of not being wanted and not being. I mean, it came very close to blowing that out of the water completely. But it was life transformative because it happened so many times.
Wow.
So, in my experience, the pattern doesn't go away completely, but it becomes so obviously not true that it has much less power.
Yes, and probably our parents were doing their best. They were just dealing with their own patterns.
Absolutely.
Like it wasn't a personal hatred towards us. It was just like,
yeah,
they're huge. Well, my parents came out of the war and depression, and they were refugees, so they had all that.
So they had profound personal trauma and were doing the best they could in the face of refugees. My goodness.
Yeah.
From where?
So, they were in Ukraine in the Mennonite community, and So first was the Russian Revolution, and then Stalin, and then the war. So their whole way of life was swept away.
Yeah.
And there was lots of murder. But anyway, that was the context of.
Yeah.
And then this generation, my generation, came along, and then we all turned into hippies and smoked pot. And
Right.
I mean, what a jarring disconnect that must have been.
Yeah. Yeah, we went through all that, and now they're throwing it away. You know, we went through all that with the depression and the war and refugee status, and now they're not even taking life seriously. I mean, it's
unbelievable.
Huge. It's huge.
Anyway, yeah.
Thank you, Joy.
Oh, thank you. It was.
I hope you're able to recoup some piece of whatever this was that you're wanting to do.
Oh, it's not even very consequential, and it doesn't involve the healthcare system or prison. Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Robert. It's Dave.
Mayor, hello.
I always enjoy listening to Joy because I seem to, I don't know, resonate with her experience. But I've had I would call it an anatta awakeness over the last week that ties right into what Joy was talking about. I took the Virginia election here last week very hard, the Glenn Youngkin election. I live in Virginia, for those who don't know. And I was sitting having an experience of what was flowing around inside, and something just burst out and said, Glenn Youngkin didn't happen to me. Glenn Youngkin happened, but it didn't happen to me. And as I was sitting there looking at the experience of it, I sort of parsed out, okay, how much am I taking this personally? Glenn Youngkin wasn't personal. You know, people weren't thinking, Dave, Mayor, here, have a Glenn Youngkin. But that was part of my experience, that everything that happens is personal to me. And I've been sitting with all of these different things that I get irritated with, that I'm upset about, that I get worked up about. And, you know, whether it's the guy with the loud car who's driving down the street trying to demonstrate his potency by blasting his unmuffled car, to Glenn Youngkin, to whatever. And as I sit with my experience of it, wait, you know, that it happened, but it wasn't personal. And I feel like I'm building a bomb shelter over my head that keeps it requires attention and awareness, but to be able to parse out that part which I'm taking as me, to say it's not personal. Even when something happens to me, like, you know, my parents, like Joy, who had their own generational crap they were dealing with, but, you know, one of the sad things is that wasn't personal to me because they weren't really looking at me as a person. But the good news is it wasn't personal. You know, it didn't mean Dave was shit. It just meant my parents weren't there enough to see how worthy Dave was. And but to have that just really intense, deeply focused sense of anatta, that life isn't personal, and that this me that is the center of the universe, maybe not so much. And so it allows me to maybe feel anger that Youngkin happened, but not, I don't know, it doesn't mean there's anything about me in that experience. And nice. You know, if the arc of justice bends towards Dukkha, it doesn't mean that I'm involved in that at all. How did I get muted? I don't know.
I don't know. It happened autonomously here. Maybe you're not the center of the universe after all.
Yeah. Well, my point is, if the arc of justice bends towards towards dukkha, maybe that has nothing to do with me at all. And that, I don't know. I just found that really, really freeing. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Those three characteristics of existence that are right there at the beginning of the teachings get more and more potent. Anicca, imagine, what if it's really true that nothing lasts? Nothing.
So, accounting accuracy.
Oops, hang on. We have a breakthrough here sound. And what if there really is not arrival somewhere and satisfaction in life? Doesn't mean there isn't lots of pleasure and beauty and joy, but what if dukkha is really real? I mean, really. And what if anatta is actually the profound, utter truth? That there's no one here to defend. I mean, just think about that for a second, even at the level of thinking. All these things that we take so seriously and personally, and what if it really is, as the Tibetans say, what if it really is a dream? How relaxed could we be on that couch? What if all of our fantasies of being in control are actually fantasies? So, thank you for exploring and sharing that with us, anatta. I'm sitting here with some words going through my mind that so much of life is none of my business. You know, I looked at the news this morning. The Yamuna River, the sacred river that flows through Delhi, that I've been to several times, has industrial waste and human waste to such a degree that the foam is 2 or 3 feet thick. And it's dead. And people are still, right now, there are people there bathing in that river because that's what the religion requires. And there was a time when I was going to be an environmental something or other, when I would have read that and become upset. It's really none of my business. This is my business right here, right now. Whoever I'm with, whatever I'm doing, this is it.
Hey, Robert. Good morning, everybody. It's Birch.
Hello, Birch.
First, an appreciation. I really the bringing in the naturalist, becoming a naturalist from a Buddhist perspective is just really insightful, really helpful, and somewhat paradoxical to the environmental disasters we're talking about. However, as a practice, it really makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you. I do have a question. I've been seeing a therapist who's got a great Buddhist practice of her own. And there's been a place that I've been rubbing up against a piece around this personal story, which is that of being an adoptee. And every time I bring it up, there's a disconnect, it feels like. And then I was watching a show last night that gets under the the emotional body. And in it, there was a character that was seeing a therapist. He's a Black man seeing a white female therapist. And the George Floyd piece came up in the storyline. And he just, he felt the need to go find, in this case, another Black male therapist. And I just wondered about that for myself. I'm kind of going, do I need to see a therapist who has more experience in the storyline and the belief systems that may be stuck in that adoptive pattern in order to become the naturalist in that pattern or become aware of it or unblock or unlock something. So I just wonder about that whole thing about, you know, my therapist has a very strong Buddhist disposition, but is there something where there's a limitation within the therapeutic context as within the practice, right? Is it, does my practice relieve all of the, well, it's not even about relieving, but learn how to live with these conditions and feelings and beliefs and concerns? And or is it helpful to be with somebody who can help unlock some of those patterns?
That would be a great theme for a day-long conference to investigate with people from various disciplines. And having been doing this for 40 years with therapy and meditation, I do have a view. A long time ago, my first wife and I were in our relationship, we were fighting a lot. We went to see her teacher, Rena Sirkar, very pretty famous person at the time. And we went and we told her what was happening, and she had a solution for us. She said, "Oh, Robert Kathleen, you know the Dharma. Stop fighting." Wasn't much help. Sometimes in my experience, I have on occasion needed someone who could really empathize with my story and my circumstances and really be there with me as I opened the door into the anguish of that was there in my history. And there's a trap in that, in that some young therapists or unskilled therapists believe that going back into the trauma, into the emotions, into the story again and again and again over long periods of time is a good thing to do. And I don't believe that anymore. It's not through catharsis isn't the healing. The healing comes here. Wait a second. I want to move your picture. Yeah, that's better. I'm looking then at the camera more. The healing comes from the recognition ultimately that the story is a story, and there's no one who was adopted, or that it's all mind stuff. But that little person who was adopted and who feels unloved and second rate and all that kind of stuff that can happen in that circumstance, we need the support, inner and outer, to be able to open to that experience. To not have it encrusted in somehow like a cyst, that it's hidden away. And then it's really, I believe, imperative, and Dharma practice really helps with this, to move beyond it. Not to move beyond it like, well, that doesn't matter, but to realize that no longer is It doesn't have to be the focus of my life anymore, that these bad things happen to me. Is this making sense? I'm kind of rambling around it.
No, it makes sense, and it's also part of the. I appreciate it. I do understand there's levels of complexity there. Is how to, like, do we have to know what it is we're letting go in order to let go? Is it important to be the naturalist inside the story, to recognize that story has had impacts, consequences, and directions? Is there something in that story that supports one to go move into the eightfold path in a way that isn't asking things to change, but can actually incorporate more of that awareness? I think part of the problem, the challenge is when there's levels of dismissal or the not seeing that is being asked to be reflected, so that some part hasn't been seen or some aspect of one's experience hasn't been seen, so that there's a relief of this notion of suffering alone, which is anatta in itself. But there's a moment of showing up in that resonant field that allows the field to be, maybe to disappear ultimately, like to be in that state of temporary awareness. So I don't know. Yeah, it's helpful. It's just I think there's a unique challenge within. It's not about a spiritual bypass that I'm speaking to. There is a layer of not recognizing that inside the story, Dharma also exists, and it's the piece that does that. Even though there's a belief that's holding the story up, somewhere inside that harness there's also, of course, there's awareness. And just having somebody like yourself or in the Sangha holding those pieces up, even if they're illusionary, is going, oh, wow. I don't know. It's like a shared experience. It's the Sangha aspect of it. And that sometimes I wonder if therapists in their own practices, right, they've got their own story. Right? That could be a longer piece, but thank you. I think this is offering something to unlock. Thank you.
When I speak of my childhood issues now, I almost always say, this is the story I've told myself for a long time. I have no idea if any of it really happened. And at this point, I mean, I have almost no interest in pursuing any further explorations of what happened in childhood. It's like it's so over. There was a time when it was essential that I delve into that and really validate it and get support in it. But I believe that ultimately there's only now. And it may have a story in it or not, but let me fill in one other piece here. In order to open to some places in my experience, I've literally needed a hand to hold. And that's been very helpful, crucial. At the same time, if a person meditates deeply and significantly over time, then concentration and mindfulness develop, the 7 enlightenment factors develop, and there's a quality of stability in consciousness which grows. And that's the inner support, which then allows one to turn towards some thought, feeling, memory complex. And you're holding your own hand then. The Buddha is holding your hand because there's enough stability to turn toward it. And also we learn how to modulate emotion. It's like, oh, This is too much for right now. Thank you very much. Going to close you down. Thank you. This is the wrong day for that. I got work to do. So, yes.
That makes total sense, Robert. And again, I think part of the in the particular, the mistaken belief that as adoption is only something that happens to a child or is part of a early childhood experiences.
Yes.
It's more like akin to, putting our whiteness as an object of meditation, or our maleness, or anything, our place, like it's more around an identity process that holds the construct of this lived experience together. And that, I think, does need, it's helpful, as you're just saying now, to have somebody to be in that resonant awareness together so that some of those pieces can evolve, if nothing else, or ultimately just enter in the flow of this moment, this part of history, this passing, this part of the dream. Yeah, thank you. I think there's a healthy tension here about how not to dismiss, how to be in and let go as its own practice, and rather than that. Yeah. So thank you.
Hi, Robert and Sangha. It's Eileen.
Hello, Eileen.
Hi, I just wanted to not disagree, but just add one thing. Robert, did you say you were only child? Am I remembering that correctly?
No, I should have been, but I wasn't.
Oh, okay. Because when you were saying you didn't know if something really happened, and could it be a story? But if you have siblings and you had where it was overt, then you had people who watched it happen and could be crying at night. So it doesn't change the outcome of all the stuff you said, but I just wanted to put in that you can get that validation. Yes, it happened. Because when you had been talking about this, I actually talked with my sister and said, am I missing something? Am I missing some of the good stuff? And it didn't seem to be that I was missing, other than we had fun when we went out to eat or something like that. So that's just what I'm adding to it.
And I'd like to continue adding.
Yes, please.
I have two sisters older than me who love to talk about that stuff. In fact, when I'm with them, I visit them a couple of times a year. As soon as we're alone and their partners are not there, they want to talk about childhood. And so there's a way, I'm not quite sure how to say this. I think in a certain level of reality, it's true that I was left in the hospital for 10 days after I was born because my mother was sick. And the stories, there's something true in that level.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another way in which I don't know if any of it really happened. I don't know quite how to say this. It exists only in thought now, only in memory, and it's not who I am. I don't need to be part of that story, or I don't need for that story to be part of me. It's just a story. But it's a different level of looking at it than. Well, of course you can validate this. Your sister was there, and I don't know. It's hard to talk about this stuff. And it's been very helpful to have their input. I had this thing. I was left in the hospital, and it's like, well, nobody cared, and blah blah blah. And it was a trauma. Okay, but then in my adult life, one of my sisters told me, well, I was there when you were brought home from the hospital, and Mom sat for hours at the door waiting for you to come home. And when you came through the door, she was ecstatic because. And that's a different story, right? It's not, oh, no one wanted me. It's my mother really wanted me, and she was quite sick, and so on and so on. So but that's all in the realm of trying to figure things out. And there's another way of approaching it, which is it doesn't matter anymore.
that's where I'm not disagreeing with you. And there are this way and adjunct ways. But I wasn't. Funny thing is, I've never even thought about that because actually I was ill and left in the hospital. But I'm talking about trauma that you're really aware of that went on your whole life as, a child starting 7, 8, whatever it is. And that's just what I mean. And if your parent lived to a very long age, it went on until 6 years ago. So ultimately, I'm not in any way challenging what you're saying, but what I'm saying, you've made it clear because you're talking about that early stuff. And what we could extend is this was sick parents. They did their best, and I've never lost that. I don't think they're evil the way one sister did. So that's all.
Thanks, Eileen.
That makes sense to you at all?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to do something here. I just had drawn to my attention. There's a real life circumstance happening. Hi, Denise. There you are on the farm. Aw. Oh, I can't hear. Are you muted? You are muted.
Here we go. Yeah, the farm came to me this morning.
I see.
This lamb saw the boy walking to the bus and they're doing road work nearby. And so she followed him out onto the street and then found the back door. And so I'm doing my feeding for meditation.
I see. A little lamb. Thank you. I could get myself in trouble here.
You'll have to mute me.
All right. Can you do that, Jim? Well, friends, I need to go soon. It's 8:24.
So, Robert, this is
Hadley.
Given that we all have a literal pea soup of our personal lives and experience and history and how we are right now, given that miasma that we live our lives in, miasma of changing experiences.
Good word.
Then I have been given, as you know, a traumatic brain injury that I got 40 years ago and that I now live with. However, I live with that, and I want to create. I know I love my life, and I think it's pretty okay when it is, and I want to give that possibility of awakening to other people that have brain injury. That's the glimmer of light that I saw when I did a retreat with the Dalai Lama a couple years ago. It's this beautiful picture behind me, and I want to get some coaching from you on what to do with that. I mean, I think it matters. I think it can make a difference for a lot of people. I don't know. And I've got a teeny community of people I've created with my gold mine meditation project I do. And it also, I want to know how I'm struggling answering asking the question, but I want to do it in a way that will make a difference for people that I won't see, that will ripple out from me or from you. Frustrated with that. Wanting it to be more than it is.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a trap, isn't it? All we can do is what we can do with what's before us. And we leave a wake behind us. That's just the way it is. And you've been doing this gold mine thing for, I don't know, way more than a decade. And you've affected a lot of people. And I think that's something to rest in with gratitude that you've had the opportunity to have that teaching possibility. And what I'm hearing is there's a craving. I want it to be more. Yeah. I want it to be somehow more, quote, meaningful or more impact. And I would propose that that's a trap. I can move you too. You don't need. I can move you. Just figured this out. There you are. We just do what we do. And you've been very clear on your intention to do this for a long time. But there's a frustration, I hear. You'd like to be doing it more. And
I used to work for, as you know, I used to work for Werner Erhard, who created the Hunger Project with John Denver. And I wanted to get to have that kind of reach.
Oh, I see. There's you want to have the reach of John Denver or Werner Erhard. That's a suffering trap. Maybe you get to be you, Had. And maybe that's plenty. I wanted to be Jack Cornfield for the longest time. For a decade, I wanted to be Joseph Goldstein, and then I wanted to be Jack Cornfield, and because they were the real Dharma teachers, and now that it's up too high. Now that I have my book, I know that I'm okay, which is silly, but those are just patterns that we have, and jealousy also lets us know what it is we'd like to do to some degree, and so there's a way you'd like to continue teaching. But to have that image, Werner Erhard, that'd be a.
Robert, it's all relative, because if it helps, you're my Jack Cornfield.
I see. We should talk about my shadow life sometime, Dave. You're muted.
I said, and Had to somebody, perhaps you're their Jack Cornfield.
Yeah, I bet it's true. Okay, my dears, I must go. I have an old friend coming this morning. I haven't seen him in several years, and he's coming to see my little broadcast studio, and I have to clean up. It's just not. It's like, anyway. I couldn't possibly have him come in here, and I've got just enough time. So let's sing our way out. Thanks for coming.
Cheetah baby, cool.
Hey, Cheetah baby.
Let's go. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu,
sadhu, sadhu. Live long and prosper.
Cheetah baby, cheetah baby, cheetah baby. Forget be well, be well, be well. Cheetah baby is the new call.
Love you, Cheetah baby.
Love you all. Bye, everyone.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks.